Hello, friends. Welcome to another r/MrRipper subreddit story spotlight. Today's yarn was spun of the burgeoning creative loom of u/Overshock. So get yourself nice and settled in, take a deep breath, maybe wrap yourself in a cozy blanket as I, Dave Makes Noises, present to you Through Nightmares, We March On, Part 1. Allow me to regale you, my comrades, in the realm of RPGs, with the tale of 8 brave warriors. People who started out from the bottom of society and climbed up to become God Slayers. This is the story of the first campaign me and my friends ever completed. A West Marches style campaign with a rotating cast of DMs and players. In this case, I shall regale you with the storyline I was running. Now settle down with your dice and snacks for a long, long read. Nearly 4,000 words. Let's begin. Over 100 years ago, a highly infectious disease known as the Blight ravaged the continent of Gradia, toppling small villages and massive kingdoms alike, wiping out more than 75% of the continent's population. A cure was never found, but after 20 years of chaos, the disease seemingly disappeared, leaving behind a ravaged continent of ruins and untouched wilderness facing threats from all sides. With only a few cities and towns left standing, paranoia took hold. A person accused of having the Blight would be exiled in a matter of hours. These exiles built smaller settlements as the world recovered, and in one of these frontier towns, a quaint little fishing village known as Forden's Crossroads, our heroes met. Grev Aurelion, a half-elven war cleric and son of the great general Morgrim Aurelion. He was enlisted into his home city's military despite his own protests against the idea. Due to his father's position, he was enlisted as a leader of a regiment of soldiers, and on one of his first missions, an ambush by monsters led to the death of all but 2 of his comrades. As a result, Grev was dishonorably discharged from the military, exiled from the city, and effectively disowned by his father. He became a wandering drunk before the Church of Heimdall's high priestess found him and took him in to try and help him. However, the other clerics looked down on him for his violent disposition. Longing for acceptance and a chance to return home to at least see his younger sister one more time, he became an adventurer, eventually discovering an ancient family secret. Clancy Cork, the halfling life cleric and assassin, the team's youngest member only being 16. They were the child of a paladin mother and cleric father. They grew up spending most of their time in their father's library while their mother spent a great amount of time out adventuring. As a result, Clancy grew up admiring adventurers like their mother and wanted to help people. They used their short stature to their advantage in combat and chose to follow a god of healing to help people who may still be suffering from the Blight's last dregs, knowing that their parents are proud of them. Remus Duskrin, the evil drow great old one warlock of Mr. Tentacular himself, Cthulhu. Born and raised into a cult worshipping Cthulhu by surprisingly loving parents for murderous cultists, taking after his prodigious older brother who became a warlock servant of Cthulhu, Remus was desperate to prove himself and was given a single task by his patron to prove himself worthy of his power. The task in question? Killing his own parents. A task he carried out without mercy. With his pact granted, he set out into the world to become as powerful as possible. However, over the course of his adventures with his new friends, he soon came to seek redemption over power. Tobias Diabal, a tiefling phoenix sorcerer and heir to the Diabal Brewing Company. He was kidnapped by a group of mages led by a lich to use as a sacrificial lamb. A phoenix was about to undergo its rebirth, and it risked a volcanic eruption, so they sought to seal it away in a living container using a necromancy-based ritual. The ritual had a high mortality rate, and they thought that no one would miss a pathetic hellspawn, but they never accounted for 2 possibilities. Firstly, that Tobias's father was a retired adventurer, and a damn strong one at that, who went to go rescue his son. But secondly was that Tobias survived the ritual and gained his pyrokinetic magic. However, due to his young age, he was unable to control it, and a child who accidentally starts fires all the damn time living with his alcohol-barren father was a recipe for disaster. Tobias left home and ran his own tavern in Forden's, selling a successful ale of his own recipe. Primarily motivated by coin, he was a bit of a hothead, but he had a firm belief in second chances, something he offered to any enemy that showed remorse, more often than not offering them a job in his tavern, even if he did accidentally burn down said tavern about 7 times. Sir Bluford the Brittle, a goblin eldritch knight as fast as he is tough. While a reckless fool of all kinds and more than a little crazy, he was a kind-hearted soul. He was born into a goblin warband that he unwittingly forced into slavery after stealing an ancient tome from a mind flayer that granted him magical abilities. While he was able to escape the fate of slavery, he vowed to free his family from their captivity, even if he does get a little distracted along the way. Ralph. Yeah, just Ralph. A humble and kind-hearted shepherd boy who desired to learn as much as possible, so he journeyed out into the wider world beyond his family's farm, becoming a powerful jack of all trades. Taking a level in every class at least once, he eventually gained powers greater than any could have imagined. Elijah Montoya, a heroic human bard who followed the way of the sword, a flashy and headstrong man who never did anything quietly. Born into a noble family, he searches for his father's killer both to avenge him and reclaim his family's ancestral sword. And Cain the Mountain, a Goliath eldritch knight who solely seeks a good worthwhile fight, though he never turned down an opportunity to party with his friends. While a late addition to the team, he was no less helpful and a part of the weird family that had formed. The first 7 of the team met and worked together on a job to investigate undead spawning within the forest surrounding Forden's Crossroads. The group traced it back to a necromancer that was hiding in the crypt of a forgotten graveyard and neighboring manor. After defeating the necromancer, the party's investigation revealed a portion of the forest coated in an ethereal blue material and inhabited by mutated deer. They decided to return and investigate at a later date. Later on, after an adventure concerning a group of bullywogs taking slaves, we did return to the strange area and discovered people cocooned in the blue substance. Removing it caused them to suddenly age rapidly. The team was beset by strange spider-like monsters that attracked them and dragged off the guide, revealing the blue substance to be their webbing. Furthermore, they could release a red webbing that aged up weapons and armor to the point of rusting. Chasing them into an underground lair, they are confronted by a giant version of these spider monsters, now dubbed Time Weavers, and faced it in combat. After defeating it, Clancy discovered a small pocket watch. Upon touching it, they were seemingly taken to a new place and met by a beautiful woman named Anithia, who asks them to hold on to her artifact and shows them it possesses a degree of time control. As Clancy returns to lucidity in the cave, they use the watch to heal the party, and following the cavern, they wind up in a room that appeared to be a lab with a skeleton clutching a journal. Reading the journal reveals that the lab and above manor belonged to a powerful wizard known as Krenorn. During a trip to an isolated frozen city in the north, he discovered the existence of an ancient pantheon of gods known as the Shattered Ones. Gods born from an original entity that got lonely and subsequently split itself into multiple deities. Each god left a relic embodying their main domain on our plane to be wielded by a worthy champion, such as Clancy's new timepiece, and Krenorn tracked them all down and performed experiments on the relics a century ago, infusing the relic's power into animals, creating incredibly powerful new monsters dubbed reliquaries, such as the Time Weavers. However, during an experiment, he resurrected an adventurer as an exceptionally powerful wight named Venandi, who broke free. During the struggle between Venandi and Krenorn, they not only released the captive reliquaries, but also an experimental pathogen derived from the relic of death itself. The Blight had been unleashed, and Venandi claimed the death relic for himself. From there, the hunt was on for the remaining relics and the monsters tied to them. However, during these hunts, it became apparent that they were not the only group hunting down these relics. On a hunt, they encountered a fox shifter named Shiro, who wields the Relic of Space and has the allegiance of the Space Reliquaries, Voidhounds, a pack of massive wolves that can teleport at will. He was both the High Priest to the Shattered Gods and the second in command of an organization known as Salvation, who also sought the relics for their own vague reasons. Shiro was incredibly powerful, and in the battle he nearly killed Remus by severing his legs. Remus only survived by the enemy's mercy, granting him magical prosthetics made of ice. Shiro reveals that the only way to gain a relic is to kill the previous wielder, or have the previous wielder hand over the relic of their own volition. The team tracks Shiro to the frozen city of Albermorn up north. After tracking him down, they meet some other members of Salvation and learn their goal. All of them have lost someone or are losing someone to the Blight. Shiro himself was the last survivor of Albermorn, with the entirety of his people being wiped out by the Blight. Salvation seeks to use the relic's power to go back in time and prevent the Blight from ever being released in the first place. The party doesn't exactly condone this on account of the potential ramifications of time travel, just making things worse. Also in Albermorn, they are confronted by Mithras, the shattered god of valor who took over his reliquary beast to act on the mortal plane. Despite being severely weakened, he is still a powerful figure who gets the party's worth and handily defeated them, though he still judged them worthy of inheriting his relic. After tracking down and defeating Venandi atop his animated flying fortress, Remus claimed the death relic for his own, but the death goddess did not approve of him and severed his ties to Cthulhu. With old Tentaclebeard no longer corrupting his mind, he started on his path to redemption and switched pacts after proving himself to his new patron, becoming a celestial warlock. By this time, the team had collected the relics of time, death, life, love, intellect, adaptability, and greed. Over the course of these relic hunts, various gods and monsters were introduced and further lore was discovered, including the fact that the shattered gods had sealed an ancient evil away in the Shadowfell. They learned that this evil was the god of dreams, Trevora, the first of the shattered gods to split from the original entity, and subsequently, the one responsible for creating the other gods. However, their champion fell into the Shadowfell, leaving the dream relic there after death. Over the eons, the corruption fed through the relic, corrupting both it and Trevora themselves, turning the once benevolent god of dreams into a violent and cruel god of nightmares. This forced the other gods to seal away Trevora in the Shadowfell, where their mind deteriorated further into little better than a feral animal. Our heroes learned this when the gods themselves called for both them and Salvation to investigate Trevora's weakening seal. It was here the players met Salvation's leader for the first time, Azrael Crusim. Yes, original name, I know. Son of the goddess of death and Cranorn himself. This concludes Volume 1 of Through Nightmares We March On. I trust that it was as enjoyable for you as it was enjoyable for me. You'll have the second volume in due time, my sweet friend, but until then, please join us on our official subreddit, r/MrRipper. Come say hello on our streams on Saturdays and Sundays, and if you're looking for a group, check out Mr. Ripper's Group Finder Discord server. As always, you can find me being a goof on TikTok at Dave Makes Noises. Do something nice for someone this week. Thanks again for watching. Please sub for Nat20s. Join us at the Notification Tavern so you can flex on us all with how early you were. We love you and appreciate you here at Rip Daddy's house, and we'll see you next time.